Justin Baldoni thought he had a solid case. He sued Blake Lively for what he claimed was sabotage, retaliation, and career damage. The evidence? Stacked. The witnesses? Lined up. The outcome? A complete shock. His lawsuit was thrown out, not because he was wrong, but because the judge said it didn't meet a new legal technicality. But now, Justin and his team are calling out something much darker, $1 million bribe. And at the center of it all, Ryan Reynolds. This isn't just a Hollywood feud, it's turning into a full-blown war. Allegations of power abuse, secret favors, and behind-the-scenes bullying are starting to bubble over, threatening to shatter more than just reputations. And if what Justin's team is saying is true, then the fallout could take down one of Hollywood's most untouchable stars. At first, this all looked like a textbook case of accountability. Justin Baldoni, known for his clean-cut image and behind-the-scenes work on uplifting projects, had filed a lawsuit against Blake Lively. The claims? Professional sabotage, false allegations, and a targeted smear campaign that, according to him, cost him both credibility and future work. But it didn't stop with Blake. As things unraveled, Justin's legal team began pulling receipts, emails, witness statements, even insider tips that allegedly painted a picture of manipulation and retaliation. On set, Blake was accused by multiple people of being difficult, controlling, and deliberately obstructing production once she secured the role. It wasn't just hearsay, there were others who backed it up. Still, most people assumed Justin would walk away with a win. He had support, documentation, and public sympathy on his side, and in the court of public opinion, Blake's reputation was taking major hits. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, the judge dismissed the case, not because Justin lied, not because the evidence wasn't strong, but because of a post-#MeToo legal technicality that shields certain public accusations. The timing? Too perfect? The ruling? Too convenient. It left everyone asking the same thing: what just happened? And as it turns out, Justin and his team weren't the only ones caught off guard. The internet exploded. Fans, fellow actors, and even legal experts started digging, trying to understand how a case that strong could vanish overnight, but they didn't have to look far, because the answer might have been hiding behind the bench, and what they found next could change everything. To most people watching, the judge's decision to throw out Justin's lawsuit didn't just feel unfair, it felt staged, and almost immediately, whispers started turning into headlines. Justin's legal team wasn't buying the excuse about legal loopholes. Instead, they made a far more serious claim. The judge had allegedly been bought. According to Justin's camp, Judge Louis J. Lyman wasn't acting independently. They believe Ryan Reynolds, yes, Blake's husband, paid a $1 million bribe to ensure the lawsuit was buried before it ever reached trial. The reason? If Justin had won, Ryan and Blake could have been forced to pay up to $250 million in damages. That's not pocket change, even for Hollywood royalty. So why pay hundreds of millions in court when you could allegedly pay off one person behind closed doors? But this wasn't just a wild theory thrown out to stir up attention. Justin's lawyers claim they have a pattern of connections that prove something shady was going on. From backdoor business relationships to personal friendships between the judge's family and Blake's inner circle, the dots were starting to connect. And the picture wasn't pretty. Judge Lyman's dismissal came fast, too fast, and it was based on a legal technicality so niche it left experts scratching their heads. To many, it looked like someone wanted the case dead before discovery even started. And now Justin is asking the courts to reassign the case entirely, arguing the judge can't be trusted to rule fairly. But here's where things go from suspicious to downright explosive. Because the judge's personal life. It's full of connections to Ryan Reynolds that no one expected. If you were wondering how a sitting judge could possibly be involved in something like this, the answer lies just one degree of separation away, from the judge's own brother. Judge Louis J. Lyman's brother, Doug Lyman, isn't just your average family member. He's deeply embedded in the entertainment industry, owning a production company called Hypnotic. That name might not ring bells on its own, but the people he's worked with, they do. Doug has directed commercials and campaigns tied to Universal Studios, Entertainment One, and Lionsgate, all companies with strong ties to Ryan Reynolds. It gets messier. Entertainment One, which Doug's work moved through, was eventually acquired by Lionsgate, a company that has a long-standing relationship with Ryan, including multiple film deals. Universal also has partnerships with Ryan through past productions. That already sounds like too much overlap. But we're just getting started. Doug Liman also directed a political campaign ad that featured none other than Blake Lively herself. That's right, the judge's brother has worked directly with the woman at the center of the lawsuit. And if that's not enough, Doug previously directed a commercial that Blake starred in. Fans quickly picked up on the connection, and social media lit up with one question. How was this not considered a conflict of interest? But the Hollywood spiderweb stretches even further. Doug is reportedly close friends with Salma Hayek's billionaire husband, François-Henri Pinault. Coincidentally, Blake Lively was spotted having dinner with Salma just days before the judge's ruling. The optics? Terrible. The implications? Even worse. This isn't just about legal connections. It's about social access, financial power, and influence that trickles into the courtroom. And Justin's team knows it. They're now arguing that Judge Lyman should have recused himself long ago. But he didn't. And that silence from the bench might say more than any official statement ever could. But even behind the Hollywood connections, the real spark came from the set itself, where Blake's behind-the-scenes behavior started this war. The drama didn't start in the courtroom. It started on set. And according to insiders, what happened behind the scenes was a ticking time bomb from the beginning. Blake Lively has always had a reputation for being poised, polished, and picture-perfect in public. But behind closed doors, some say a different version of Blake shows up, one that's far less glamorous and much more controlling. Multiple cast and crew members who worked with her have come forward, claiming she had a habit of switching up the moment contracts were signed. In her own interviews, Blake even admitted to misrepresenting herself during auditions just to land a role. Once on set, she would allegedly override directors, challenge writers, and push back on costume and narrative decisions, going far beyond the typical role of an actor. Her defense? She wanted to be involved in storytelling and character creation, but to producers and co-stars like Justin Baldoni, it felt like sabotage. Sources close to the production claim, Blake often made filming difficult, demanding changes, delaying shoots, and clashing with team members when she didn't get her way. What started as creative input quickly morphed into tension, then resentment, and that's where the feud with Justin reportedly began. As a director and producer, Justin had a clear vision for the project, but Blake, according to insiders, frequently bypassed him, challenged his authority, and eventually filed complaints against him, flipping the narrative entirely. To those watching from the outside, it looked like Justin was being painted as the problem, but internally, many say the chaos stemmed from Blake's need for control and her unwillingness to follow direction unless it fit her terms. That chaos spilled into court, and it's what made so many people confident Justin's case would hold up. But just when it seemed like Blake might finally be held accountable, Ryan Reynolds stepped in, and that's when things took a darker turn. At first, Ryan Reynolds looked like a silent supporter, standing by Blake, showing up in court, and staying out of the headlines. But according to Justin's legal team, that quiet presence was just a cover. Behind the scenes, Ryan was allegedly far more involved than he let on. Justin's lawyers claim he wasn't just standing by his wife. He was helping orchestrate a calculated campaign to destroy Justin's reputation and career. One of the biggest allegations? That Ryan used his industry power to strong-arm WME, one of the biggest talent agencies in the world, into dropping Justin as a client. Losing that kind of representation doesn't just sting, it cripples an actor's career overnight. But that wasn't all. Justin's team accuses Ryan of spreading damaging rumors across Hollywood, calling in favors, and working to isolate Justin within the industry. Allegedly, casting offers began drying up, meetings were canceled, studios distanced themselves. It all pointed back to one thing. Ryan wasn't just defending Blake, he was going on the offensive. Then, in a twist no one saw coming, Ryan filed a motion to be dismissed from the case. In court documents, he claimed he was just a supportive spouse who had witnessed the emotional and financial toll Blake had suffered. He portrayed himself as someone on the sidelines, someone simply watching his partner fight a legal battle. But Justin's lawyer, Brian Friedman, wasn't buying it. In a fiery statement, he accused Ryan of trying to light the fire and then run from the flames. He said Ryan's fingerprints were all over the smear campaign and that attempting to downplay his role was both arrogant and dishonest. That request to be removed from the lawsuit? Denied, because as the receipts kept piling up, it became clear. This wasn't just a marital dispute. This was a Hollywood power play, and Ryan was allegedly right in the center of it, and if there was any doubt left about Ryan's intentions, the SNL incident would blow it wide open. It happened during the SNL 50th anniversary special, a moment that should have been a celebration, not a scandal. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler opened the floor for audience participation. Then, upshot Ryan Reynolds' hand. What followed wasn't a harmless joke, it was a targeted jab, and everyone in the room felt it. Ryan cracked a line that insiders say was clearly aimed at Justin Baldoni. He smirked, delivered the punchline, and tried to play it off like it came from the SNL writers, but that cover didn't hold for long. The SNL team quickly issued a statement distancing themselves from the joke, saying it was not in the script and not approved. Even Cue Card Wally, a longtime backstage handler, confirmed it was Ryan's idea and his decision to go through with it. This wasn't a slip of the tongue, wasn't spur of the moment. Ryan reportedly rehearsed the line and chose to say it, knowing full well it would stir controversy. And it worked. The internet exploded, fans were split, and the lawsuit picked up new fire. For Justin, it was more proof of ongoing harassment. But what made this worse was the stage Ryan chose, Saturday Night Live, a show with massive viewership, backed by NBC, owned by Comcast, and heavily connected to Disney through overlapping media interests. It wasn't just a joke, it was a shot fired on a global stage. And that's exactly what Justin's legal team argued. The incident was added to their growing list of claims: bullying, defamation, professional sabotage, and now included a demand for records from NBC and Disney about what they knew and when they knew it. The message was clear. Ryan wasn't just mocking Justin in private. He was using billion-dollar platforms to embarrass him publicly. And as legal threats extended toward major networks, the stakes skyrocketed. But this wasn't the last time Ryan allegedly mocked Justin on camera, because the next jab, it was buried in a Marvel movie, and it dragged Disney and Marvel straight into the fire. Most people saw Deadpool vs. Wolverine as just another edgy superhero flick, but for Justin Baldoni, it was something else entirely, a public mockery hiding in plain sight. At the end of the film, a new character appears, Nice Pool. He's overly sweet, grinning awkwardly, and drops lines that seem way too specific to be random. One of the most suspicious? Where in God's name is the intimacy coordinator? That alone raised eyebrows, but what followed was worse. Nice Pool praises a female character for bouncing back after having a baby and tags on a line about feminism that sounded like a direct shot. Justin didn't find it funny. In fact, he was convinced it was a deliberate dig at his identity, his values, and his past comments about championing feminism, especially during his promotion for It Ends With Us. His legal team wasted no time. They sent formal letters to Disney CEO Bob Iger and Marvel boss Kevin Feige, demanding that all materials related to Nice Pool be preserved. Emails, drafts, production notes, anything that could prove the character was designed to mock, intimidate, or humiliate Justin. The accusation? That Reynolds used a Disney platform to ridicule a legal opponent in the middle of an ongoing lawsuit. And because Reynolds played the character himself and had significant influence on the film, Justin's team argued he crossed a line, dragging Marvel and Disney with him. An insider close to the case said the legal team is now launching a full investigation into the Deadpool sequel, reviewing how funding was secured, which producers knew about the character, and who approved the lines. If they can prove intent, the consequences could extend beyond Ryan. This wasn't just trolling, it was now being framed as civil extortion and contractual interference, both serious claims with heavy legal weight, and even with all of this swirling around him, Ryan stayed silent, refusing to deny the allegations while letting the chaos grow louder. But behind closed doors, Ryan was starting to panic and trying to quietly exit the case. With headlines flying and receipts stacking up, Ryan Reynolds did what most wouldn't expect from someone known for playing a fearless anti-hero. He tried to quietly bow out. In a legal filing, Ryan painted himself as nothing more than a supportive spouse, a man caught in the emotional wreckage of his wife's legal nightmare. He described the emotional, reputational, and financial toll Blake had suffered, trying to distance himself from the firestorm, but Justin's team wasn't having it. In a bold statement, attorney Brian Friedman accused Ryan of doing far more than watching from the sidelines. He said Ryan's role wasn't passive, it was pivotal. From allegedly pressuring agencies to drop Justin, to mocking him on global platforms, to inserting questionable references into a Disney movie, Friedman called Ryan's actions a coordinated campaign to destroy a man's career. And now, that campaign is being laid bare in court documents. The second lawsuit Justin filed is even bigger than the first, and this time, it names Ryan directly as a key defendant. The charges? Defamation, professional interference, breach of trust, and perhaps the most explosive of all, bribery of a federal judge. If proven, it could lead to a reopening of the original case, disbarment for Judge Lyman, and a full-blown legal disaster for Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. But this isn't just about money or revenge anymore. For Justin, it's about sending a message to an industry that protects its favorites and buries the rest. And for the fans watching, it's a reminder that even Hollywood's most charming faces might have something to hide. Ryan may have thought he was untouchable. He may have believed, as he once said, that he was too big to fail. But when the spotlight turns into a magnifying glass and the jokes stop being funny, the truth tends to surface. Because in this case, the receipts are real, the accusations are serious, and the storm is just beginning. The empire might look perfect from the outside, but behind the scenes, it's starting to crack.